Welcome to the start of a new review series. This is basically a name. Basically, it's also been used by Jay Heat for his channel. This is basically sort of a side thing to build up basically our review for Batman Nightfall. We're calling it it's Comic Blaze Batman, but basically this is all about post-crisis Batman, reviewing a lot of his comics that came out post-crisis, from the point post-crisis up until the events of Nightfall. We have already covered for his channel. We already covered year one, so I put it out there, see what series you want to cover. I initially just said Batman, but then he said I'll take Batman, and then I'm like, okay, I'll do Detective. It's like, okay, I'll take Robin. Okay, my friend Tivia is going to be taking Sword of Azrael. As for who's covering now, he has confirmed he's going to do Batman. He said he's confirmed doing Robin. When it's coming out, I don't know. This is just episode 1. So, for me covering Detective Comics, most of the be covering, with the exception of like one trade, mostly put for me, it's covering this series. Batman the Dark Detective. Yes, I had the first 2 trades here, discuss that in a minute. And we're basically going to have this series. The idea for it is to fill in gaps, and we come together for the big cross events like Nightfall, like Contagion, Legacy, all these are crossovers that have all been Batman. And this is basically covering this stuff as best we can. Now, how long will it take us? I don't know. This is a big project that this is all my idea per se that I presented him. He loved the idea of us doing this. I got Tivy on board. He basically agreed to it, no problem. As for who else wants to do it, I don't know. Those are the 2 I can think of, basically, that I know of, basically, that we could contribute to this special project. But we're going to start leading to Nightfall. Alright, so for Batman the Dark Detective Volume 1, this is reprinting issues 560 to 574 and 570 to 582. Yeah, there's actually going to be one error trade. I'm probably going to find a way to get hands on it. It is basically Batman Year 2, which was deemed non-canon thanks to Zero Hour. So, the writers for these issues are Mike W. Barr, Mary Jo Duffy, and Joey Caravelli. Good writers. Mike Barr basically tends to be always writes particularly a very violent Batman. Yes, the artwork in here is done by Alan Davis, Jim Berkey, Terry Beatty, the awesome Norm Buffer, who passed away a couple years ago. Amazing artist. E.R. Cruz, the awesome Carmine Fantino. I really miss him. I really want to meet this guy, but he just has passed away. Neil Adams told me a little about the guy before. I mentioned before multiple times I have met Neil Adams. Awesome gonna be a person. We talk about, basically it comes to him like, we Reverse Flash. Yeah, he also created Tech a Chimp. Yep. Famous Flash artist who also does Batman work. And Klaus Johnson, the artist behind Batman Year 1. The cover here, this trade here, this is Alan Davis, Paul Narney, who's the inker, and Alan Pascali. Yes. So, we start off with the Legends tie-in. These tie-ins for Legends, now, for some reason, Batman 401 is not in the Batman Cape Crusader trade. I do not know why it's not there. I get why it starts with 10 Nights of Beat for some strange reason. I kind of discussed this already when we talk about Year 1. Mostly this is all about a politician. There's not really a lot to discuss here, though this book does kind of have the first post-crisis appearance of the Penguin. That's the one thing you can know from this issue. But starting with issue 569, which I believe this was the first post-crisis appearance of, I believe, the Joker and Catwoman. Though Catwoman, for some reason, is wearing her Golden Age costume. Not the costume she wore in the 90s. No, she basically is still wearing this. The cover art for issue 769, it is done by Now, of course, this was written by Mike DeBar, art by Alan Davis. Alan Davis is the cover with Paul Narney on there's the cover here. We started off with these guys in yellow suits attempt to rob this machine at the Gotham Medical Supply Warehouse, where they're confronted by Batman and Robin. I should point out that at the time basically this came out, Dick Grayson was not in the costume. He had not been in the costume for a few years at this point. At this point in time, it is Jason Todd in the costume. And if you read this book compared to how it was written in Batman, yeah, the way he was written here was completely different how Jim Starlin wrote him, or basically Max Allan Collins. The way this version is written, he's written to be like pre-Crisis Jason Todd, where it's like nothing happened, no change. As to the reason for this, I don't know. Of course, it calls him Chum. They beat up they fight, have Batman swoop down, punch a guy, and of course he fires acid gas. And of course we have some good guys in hostage, but look how basically he's able to be free thanks to frickin' Catwoman. Yes, Catwoman is here. Please pretend you're not a man. At least be a man, Crime Doll. Not a mouse. And thank God I'm not hungry. And then we have Selina, where she just hooks up with Batman's like not from the boy, and of course, and Jason's like, ooh, brother. Yep. Now, the way it's written here is like, have away Bruce. Now you're thinking, wait a minute. I thought Catwoman didn't know Bruce Wayne was Batman until Hush. Well, some of these early issues felt like they basically were part of like, even though these are kind of like post-crisis, but it's kind of like some stuff was later reorganized thanks to all the retcons happening here. And then we have, we have some guys, but you have a guy who's like, let's go home. You have some guys meeting up with the Joker, which that is how Alan Davis draws him. This weird art style with him. And he does his laughing bit. He throws paper in the incinerator. You have a guy riding a mini cycle. And of course he gets like turned off against paper and that goes away. And then we see the Batcave. You're probably thinking, was this the first post-crisis appearance of the Batcave? At this point in time, not sure. It could have been either. It could have been Batman 401 possibly, because that was technically the first post-crisis appearance of Batman. We had the Batcave here. How it was drawn here. This one big panel. We have the giant penny, the playing card, the dinosaur, a penguin. Looks like some cape, and you see like a dice. We have various stuff covered up here. Those of you who curious about what's behind there, I believe those are older Batmobiles. Yes. As for what's over on the left there, that could be a computer console, possibly. I'm not sure. Oh, by the way, a little fun fact: the famous Batcomputer Batman's known for having in the Batcave. The design of it was actually originally inspired by the Batman animated series. Because the version that everybody knows he has, with a big screen and little buttons in front. Because originally Batcomputer was not like that at all. It was just a regular thing, and then it became super the way it was thanks to having a animated series. Then you have Bruce and Jason have a sparring match. And like, oh, but I have pot roast. And then, of course, he's about to eat, and he's called away because he has to go to work. All because, basically, Catwoman's here, and, of course, the Joker's involved. And, of course, they want to smash this case of what at this book. First, smash the lock, and open the thing up. Joker grabs the book, smashes it, and then, of course, they carry it away. Everyone's wearing these laughing, fake smiles on their faces. And of course, Batman proceeds to beat him up, of course. They have a guy who looks like he's out of Vietnam, who's having this weird gun, except he proceeds to web up Batman and Robin, and puts Catwoman in a small cage. And oh yeah, they take off her mask, and they proceed to just hypnotize her for some reason. Though Batman's able to free himself, thanks to the mascara as he is, and then he frees Robin. And that leads into the very next issue, 570. Where basically Catwoman was hypnotized by the Joker to fight Batman. So the very next issue is basically Batman looking for... Basically, he's looking for Catwoman. Basically, his profile, and he's able to knock someone out thanks to someone having him with a pool cue. Hello, Rhonda. Stay on Chapel? Not hardly. Let me... Eventually, after basically, like, we can pass some goon, and then they meet with the profile. And of course, he's looking for the Joker because maybe he knows where Catwoman is. And after some investigating, they do eventually find him. Of course, you have Joker fly around this little Joker-mobile. And then you have Catwoman fighting Batman. You done? Yep, so... Then we have people getting tied up here, thanks to Catwoman working with Joker. And then, of course, she just falls out the window, disappearing. And then Joker is knocked out, and of course, family's back together. And the story does come back a little bit, and then we have this really cool cover here, where I think this was the first post-credits appearance of the Scarecrow. Yes. We have Bruce and Jason at a racetrack, which is a crash, and of course Batman helps up put the fire out after they've been covered in water by Robin, and they free the guy. They rescue him basically survive on his own. Like, I'll go in a minute. Yep. So yeah, apparently he got drugged by the Scarecrow. And this is how he looked at the time, post-crisis. Yep, the Scarecrow. So you think, okay, reading this, you got Joker, you got Catwoman, you got the Penguin. Cool. The Batcave, then we have the whole thing of like some rigging stuff here, and like over Robin, and it's a really interesting issue. The best thing about this issue is the artwork, and of course, Joker got easily defeated. And then we have the anniversary issue for Batman 572. Yeah, this is celebrating 50 years of Batman, not 527 per se. That happened prior to this, and it's a multi-story issue featuring Sherlock Holmes, Batman and Robin, and the Elongated Man. Yes, they all have stories in this book, and it's basically all about one big mystery, and it's all connected. Yep. And by the end of it, basically, Batman does meet the real-life Sherlock Holmes, who is alive. Oh, and they have to go, like, overseas, whatever. It's a really fun issue. Yeah, so they recommend for Batman fans to read this one. Eventually, he does find Sherlock Holmes alive, and of course, he has a pipe. And of course, lights a match because, you know, Sherlock Holmes like smoke. He's like, I mean, pie's pure for show nowadays. And then the very next issue, after basically that little fun little story there, and then we have issue 573, where Batman is face off against the Mad Hatter. Except that's not the Mad Hatter, that's the imposter Mad Hatter. Yes. It was, I noticed, the imposter because it was later revealed that this is not the real one, because the real one never grew a mustache, and plus he was shorter than this guy was. So he's like, whole thing like, I want to have like released from Gotham State Prison, not Blackgate. That would not be invented for another decade. It's Gotham State Prison. So then he's hauled away in this vehicle, escorted by Batman and Robin. Of course, he wants the hat, and he buys paper, makes up a hat. And the whole thing is robbing places, and the events of this one does lead to the very next issue, which is quite nice. So we have one point in the issue where you have Bruce Wayne running for I think it was council, and the whole thing was basically a stage for trapping Mad Hatter in this fun little escape with all these pinballs, and then Gordon's invited to course, and then sadly put during the whole thing, Robin is shot by Mad Hatter's goons, fake Mad Hatter, and it leads to 574. Well, this book here has the debut of the Thomas Wayne Memorial Clinic. They had this sort of established in year 2. And then we have Leslie Tompkins. I think this was the first principal. Of course, she takes us some punks. Then basically, she knows Bruce Wayne is Batman, and she helps him out. And Leslie Tompkins, basically, she's been a recurring ally of Batman over the years. I mean, she's basically like an outside source doctor. And her clinic is provided by Wayne, by the Wayne Foundation. So they kind of explain that she has a past with Bruce Wayne, and then he's recovering, and then this continues on even very next issue where he's like still recovering. There's a flashback when he first became Batman, and then we have 579 where Jason recovered, and then 579 we have the Crime Doctor. Those who remember Batman the Animated Series. Oh, by the way, before I continue, in the episode featuring Paige the Crime Doctor, this is where the story came from. Also, I should point out that the cover logo changed. Yes, when the book first started, the logo looked like this in here, post-crisis. And then we have this logo here, and this will remain for the next few years. And so the whole thing of this issue is that the Crime Doctor is sent to get this guy to do surgery. And basically, the Crime Doctor is his doctor who's doctor for criminals, and he's only in this one issue. It's a one-shot story, and these are characters brought back from the previous story here. So they do find the Crime Doctor at the very end, and everybody's reunited. And then the very next issue is a two-parter. Yes, a two-parter. You have Jim Binky take over the artwork of this issue. We have its Return of Two-Face. I believe this was his first post-Christ appearance. Yes, we see him standing on this thing here. I'm like, how the heck is he not walking over there? It's called Double Image, and it's a two-parter. Yes, a two-parter, because DC loves two-parters when it comes to basically Two-Face. And I think this was Jason's... Actually, this wasn't his first post-Christ appearance, because I think he also appeared in Second Chances, because he was really the one who killed Jason Todd's father. So this whole thing is copying his newest scheme, and like him going all over the place, and then of course fighting another Two-Face in issue 581, of course. I might just stop with this one because basically, yeah. Yeah, so, and of course, Robin wants to keep, Batman wants to keep Robin because of his personal connection to Two-Face. So he is eventually beaten at the end. Of course, a little team up, of course, beats up his own goons. And then we lead into Millennium with issue 582. This is the solo issue done by Mary Jo Duffy. Yep, Millennium week before. So, Millennium tie-ins, are just like, oh, these supporting characters in the book? Oh, they're actually Manhunters. We saw with Jim Gordon just looking out his window, and you see people from his past, puts his photo there, and he proceeds to go home for the day. Then you have basically like a robot here, and of course he makes the whole thing with Millennium. And then you have Jim Gordon being tailed by the Manhunters. Yes, he's being targeted by the Manhunters because he's a public figure, so that's why he's being targeted. So you have Batman battling the Manhunters with Jim Corrigan, aka the Spectre. Yeah, that was interesting. Because Manhunters be easily beaten this book. for some reason. They're beat mostly off screen. Yep. And of course, there's a little bit of fun escapade here. Yeah, really good book here. But yeah, really good book. I give this here a 10 out of 10. I'm going to hear because basically that I don't want to just drag on for 40 minutes for these particular comic play stuff. So, I will see you all after I do my next anime and do my next episode, and then I'll hold off until whenever J-Heat or Tivia basically do their reviews, hopefully. J-Heat, if you want to do Batman, go right ahead. If not, I might have to do it, which that might have to be the case. Yeah, but at least I saw Detective. Yes. You two, when I cover it, here, depends. Okay? Thanks for you. Bye.